Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and I welcome all of you back to another Rage video. Although this is sort of like a bit of a different variant, and I've got to get past this ad in order just to get to the beginning of this video. Let me just turn this up as well and cut the mute on that. Now, this is kind of like one of those videos I've kind of wanted to make for a little bit of a while now. The video itself is by a channel called psych2go, and it's the purpose of psych2go is it's a channel to openly discuss the importance of mental well-being and to discuss various signs if you're struggling with things you might not comprehend, or why you think what you might be experiencing if you encounter certain things in your day. It's a bit difficult to technically describe all of their videos because a lot of them are sort of built for more educational purposes, and that's kind of what I wanted to do in this video. I wanted to learn something in this video. So aside from that, that's the kind of thing I want to do anyway. But with that being said, there's certain other things as well that they don't teach you in school that you simply have to learn for yourself. And sadly, and I think I can absolutely testify to this definitely, is that there are certain things you don't learn about in school, and once you're out there in the real world, you simply don't know how to cope with certain things. I will be one to admit that I'm not entirely sure if I've absolutely grasped at this stage of my life at 23 years old that some of the things I have done, like some choices I've made like through university and stuff like that, haven't been the best choices, and certain things that I feel as if like I have made the right choices might not be for the best of reasons. But with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a look at don't allow your life to be controlled by these 5 things. So this might be a slightly longer video than normal because I kind of like want to go through all of these, but for what they're worth, I feel as if like we should be more than open to discussing these things, and we could learn a lot more about each other if we were open and honest about each other, because, well, you got to reach out to someone. It's if you let things become bottled up inside, then it can come out in very unhealthy or even more disturbing sort of ways. So you shouldn't be afraid to open up and talk about how you feel. That's just something you should never be afraid of. Maybe that's one of the things is fear. And you may have heard me talk about, especially in a lot of my videos, especially when I'm talking about Lily Allen, is that fear seems to be one of the things that I feel like consumes me or immobilizes me from really doing the things I want to. But for what they're worth, ladies and gentlemen, let's do this. If you guys want to check out the original video for yourselves, links will all be in the description down below. Let's begin in 3, 2, 1, and...
Hey psych2goers, ever wonder what the secret to life was? What's the key to finding real, lasting happiness and fulfillment? Or how to make all your dreams come true? Chances are, you probably have. But what we don't realize is that figuring out what doesn't make us happy is what's holding us back and getting in the way of everything we want. So here are 5 of the most common things we struggle with that hold us back from living a great, fulfilling life.
The video's primary intention is having spiritual and lighthearted content based on personal opinions. This video is not a substitute for professional advice, but general guidance. We advise you to always listen to your intuition and always do what is right for you. I'm glad that they straight up said... This is one of those disclaimers where basically they should tell you... It tells you both what you want and also what you need to hear. That you need to have a very definite opinion, because you have to come to a stage in your life, ladies and gentlemen, where you have to be responsible and utilize common sense or utilize whatever it may be to make your own decisions. And it happens to all of us sooner or later. Or even if we don't think we're ready for it or not, you have to get started at some point.
Number 1, other people's opinions. Are you always changing how you act and behave because of what other people think? Deep down inside, you may know that you shouldn't let other people and their opinions dictate how you live your life. But it's also only human to crave love, acceptance, and approval. This desire to belong and to receive validation from those around you may make it easy to make the mistake of changing who you are to accommodate the people you care about. But caring too much about other people's opinions to the point where you don't even get a say anymore in what it is you want to do with your life may only serve to trap you in a life of regret and resentment.
You're not wrong about that. As far as I'm concerned, certain people who shall go unnamed in this video, but good Lord only knows that I would love to name and shame them, but I'm not gonna do that. I know fine well that, what, I'm gonna be the big one here, and not call them out and say that the way they talk about me is disgusting and horrible. Because of the way I've decided how to do things, that's purely my agenda, and it's got nothing to do with them. And then they start passing judgment, and they get really mad when they receive any criticism whatsoever. But I'm just gonna say this right now, ladies and gentlemen, because I think there's probably a lot more people out there who may be experiencing the same thing, that maybe they're experiencing what I'm going through right now, and I've done for the last 9 months. I've simply learned to just straight up not. It's not so much that I don't listen when people say stuff like that, but rather I go through the notions of just saying, it's never stopped me in the past. I mean, I know fine well there are other people that are close to me who do loads of stuff that doesn't even batter an eyelid from other people. But when it comes to me, it's sort of like, you're the eldest of your siblings. You've got to be the one who's got to take the responsibility. You've got to set by example. And they also, the issue, ladies, I think the issue is that I feel as if I give, but I don't receive. It's not even a case of receiving things that maybe I need to hear as opposed to what I want to hear, but it's like I get nothing back whatsoever. There will be occasions where sometimes people will say very short sentences which actually deliver a lot more, because the thing is that writing short, maybe that's why I started writing haikus, is that writing short things is difficult. I like to be extremely elaborative and extremely descriptive of certain things. But at the same time, people will say, but you're just talking about nonsense. Because it gives me the impression that people just straight up don't listen to me when I've said my piece, and they don't. That's I feel as if I get the impression that I'm supposed to listen to them, but they have absolutely every right to not listen to me, and then they'll call me blasphemous for ignoring them. You feel like that, ladies and gentlemen? Because I do. I've been there. I'm still there, but I'm just learning to accept the fact that certain people like that, no matter who they are, just shouldn't deserve a place in my life. If I'm big enough to be respectful and to be mature and behave specifically to make sure everyone's happy and okay, isn't it just fair and just treat others as you would like to be treated? We came up with these concepts. We may as well stick to them. It's just some people, I think, are at liberties to say that they are above those sort of things because their egos are as big as their eyes that are bigger than their stomachs.
Number 2, your relationships. Aside from the opinions of others, you may also be guilty of letting your attachments to other people keep you from living your best life. Perhaps you're afraid to move to a new city, even though you really want to, because you'll have to leave your closest friends and family. Or maybe you want to go to a different college or declare a different major from your friends because you're afraid you'll drift away from them. Although it's always nice to take the people you love into consideration when making big life decisions, it's equally important to consider yourself and what you want as well, even if you may think it's selfish to do so. Prioritizing your own needs and wants is important for your own happiness and well-being. Number 3.
That's kind of here's a very different sort of take as opposed to the one they just gave. As far as my relationships go, throughout my life, I would say, ladies and gentlemen, I would get to know people for a few years, and then we'd sort of like move on. They would go to a different school, and I would go to a different school. Sometimes we would go to the same school, but we would just stop talking to each other. I think for the longest time, ladies and gentlemen, I thought that as I go through life and I go from one place to another, people will put up with me and call me their friend just to keep me quiet for a couple of years, maybe a few months or weeks. And then once it's all done, they couldn't wait to see the back of me. That's not technically quite true anymore. But the issue with that, ladies and gentlemen, is that was the mindset I had going forward. So, and especially going into university, which kind of had hindered to myself making too many friends at university, because everybody kind of had their own sort of clique, and I didn't really feel like I fit in there. That's basically, if I could summarize university life in one sentence, ladies and gentlemen, is that I just didn't fit in. That's the truth. So I had this very coldish attitude. It's not so much I was cold. I was willing to say good morning to people, and I'd get nothing in return. So that's kind of like when I just straight up learned to stop caring about whether or not I had friends or not. Because the friends that I did have, the friends that I would talk to online, who saw me and, knew what I was up to, they knew what I was about. They knew who I was. So they mean more to me. And Mrs. Wachoff, who's sadly no longer here, who's been gone for just over a year, she means more to me in the 2 years since when I was doing YouTube and I got to know her and we talked a few times in the comments. She means more to me and than I think almost everybody I met at university. With the exception of one friend I made who did law and who's now back in North Yorkshire. So, but I think again, life is just kind of like that. You move on, and sometimes I feel like I've got to do that as well. I haven't let go of my friendships. I'm still friends with a lot of people from my past, at least. But do you get the idea that sometimes you think I like them more than they liked me in return? Even, on just a very mutual friend sort of thing. That's honestly what it feels like sometimes. I'm trying to get it out of my head to stop thinking like that. But it's difficult. It's not easy.
Your past.
Exactly.
Do you find yourself falling into the same problematic patterns over and over again, even when you already know better? It's been said that until you heal from your past, you create from your past. By letting your past control your future, you may be stopping yourself from getting to where you really want to go. Real authenticity and happiness comes from making peace with your past, letting it go, and learning to be more intentional with everything you do moving forward. Align your actions with the future you want instead of the past you're trying to outrun. And you might just find that it radically changes your life for the better. Number 4.
I'll live with you. I think, considering what I said 30 minutes ago, that I wanted to make a video about my past, or rather what happened 10 years ago and what life was like back then. I'm not looking at it as if I'm living in the past. I want to revisit my past so I could understand absolutely why things happen the way they do. Because there are many things that happened 10 years ago that I'm still not entirely sure why they happened. Whether it's a case of why did I not think for myself to try harder, or why did I feel that certain things were being done for a certain reason. It's a tricky one, and it's one that I can't necessarily talk about in too much detail without actually going over what happened. But for what it's, I'm just going to continue.
Negative emotions. Are you always looking for ways to hide how you feel? Negative emotions are labeled as such because no one ever wants to feel that way, whether it's anger, jealousy, hatred, or fear. Negative emotions can feel corrosive to your mental and emotional well-being when you let them get the better of you. But that doesn't mean you should repress or deny them either. All emotions serve a purpose, so when you try to repress or dismiss them, they may only build up and overwhelm you at a later time. Instead, you may want to try to identify why you're feeling this way, learn from it, and find constructive ways to address the issue and resolve it. Number 5.
Honest to God, ladies and gentlemen, I think the when all is said and done about certainly how this year has turned out, nearly just over 8 months into it, I've never really had like a day this year I feel like I've actually kind of like wasted. I feel like there were certain days I feel like were better than others, but only because like I got certain things done in a certain way, as opposed to what happened like later on. But personally speaking, ladies and gentlemen, the biggest thing I kind of like want to say is I haven't really had like the time or even thought it was even necessary to like have another breakdown or to cry or to feel bad about myself. I didn't have time for that sort of thing because I was too busy focusing on the task at hand. And I feel like this is just another one of those things about growing up, is that sometimes I'm not saying, of course, that, you know, I'm suppressing anything, but what I am saying is that if I really do want to get to where I want to be, then I've got to seriously look at myself and say, are you actually going to do what it takes, or are you just going to be one of those people who says they are but won't actually ever do anything? I've got to do something different. And maybe if the one about the past notwithstanding, if you've actually seen what I've done throughout this year, but at the same time, if I don't do it, it will never be done. Or it will be done by someone else. And I'll constantly live in agony and fear, knowing that despite numerous people telling me not to do this, it's what I chose because this is what I wanted to do. Because that should be... I should be able to do that in my life. I should be able to make my own decisions. Because I decided them. Nobody else. This was all on me. Everything about this year is on me. Everything about all that. So, let's continue. Limiting beliefs. Well, I can't necessarily relate to this one, but let's hear them out anyway. I want to hear this.
5. Limiting beliefs. American businesswoman and multimillionaire Mary Kay Ash once said, "Many people limit themselves to what they think they can do, but you can only go as far as your mind lets you. What you believe, you can achieve." There's certainly a lot of truth to be found in her statement, because all too often you may find that you are your own worst enemy when it comes to achieving success and happiness. And one of the worst ways of self-sabotage is when you buy into your own limiting beliefs and let them control your life. Perhaps you think that you're only worthy if you have the love and approval of others, or that life is only worth living if you do something great. Once you learn to overcome these limiting beliefs and start believing that anything is possible, you may find that your potential becomes unlimited. Did you relate to any of these signs we've mentioned? Let us know in the comments below. If you found this video helpful, be sure to like, subscribe, and share this video with those who might benefit from it. And don't forget to hit the notification bell icon to get notified whenever psych2go posts a new video.
I'll make sure to do that. Yeah, I mean, I've wanted to do it for a while anyway, so that's... I really like the part about limiting beliefs, because it made me just sort of like consider, well, we've gone over the things you said before about past and present, but what about the future? What does the future hold for someone like me? Or maybe it'll be for someone like you. You may have heard me say that I've wanted to get into writing, specifically to write novels. one particular idea which I want to like make into like a series of books. I've had an idea that I've had since December of 2019, and unfortunately, so like in the last at least 8-7 months, it's only progressed as far as like notes and ideas I put down on paper. And maybe that's just, I put all these things down to like, certain, there are only certain hours, so many hours in the day, and there's so much stuff to be done otherwhere else, and all those things besides. I think maybe it will simply have to come down to prioritizing whether or not it really means that much to do it. Because there are lots of things I want to do, ladies and gentlemen, stuff that I want to turn into a success, because it's I know fine well people will straight up ask me, this was something that I was never asked at university, and something I've never been asked to this day is, why exactly did you study animation in the first place? If what you've done has, in the last 3 years, has just sort of, it's had nothing really to do with the coursework itself or what's been going on. Because I didn't want to do animation just so that I could start making commercials, or I could start, making certain things that appeal to a certain demographic, or to be in a room where I would give, a demonstration about what my idea is, and all the lecturers had to do was just to put their face in their hands and say absolutely nothing. Or for people to tell me my idea is unoriginal whilst they play the feel sorry for me card. You know exactly who you are, and I wanted to say I felt that was a very sick and dickish move, what you just did. But with that being said, I think like the thing I've got to do now, ladies and gentlemen, I think I've really figured it out now. I've got to redesign this room. I've got to get rid of all this. I've got to get rid of everything I don't need. I've either got to get out of this room, or I've got to get rid of like a wall and put more stuff. I need this space cleared. I need a bigger desk. I need to get my pad and my tablet, put it here, and spend literally weeks on end working on it. Unfortunately, the reason for why I can't that is I feel almost like trapped at work, because working 6 days a week, 58 hours a week, you might say it almost doesn't. No, I can't do that anymore. I can't. I'm fucking sick of having to I feel like I'm making excuses, saying that. No, it's not even making excuses. It's rather, I'm having to make compromises on the things I'm doing already, but I feel like I'm apologizing for not being unreasonable enough to myself. People want me to do driving lessons, despite the fact I have almost no time in the world for, to relax or to do anything like that. People want me to friggin' just get a better job, because apparently the job I do, despite how many hours I work, or despite how the fact that I love, working there, they feel as if like that's not even good for me. I'm sick to death of people suddenly, looking down their nose at me. I'm sick of people not listening to me when I talk to them. I'm sick of the hypocrisy I see in the news. I'm sick of the hypocrisy I see just to the people I talk to. I'm sick of people intimidating other people. I'm sick of people lying to me, and I'm also sick of the fact that people look at me with a certain air that means that I will forever be saying I'm going to do these things, but they don't know me. They couldn't care less about anything I say or do, and more importantly, they just waste my time. I friggin' feel like I want to scream it. No, you know what? I'm not gonna scream. I've got more dignity, and I have got more. You know what? Didn't realize I was losing this much hair. You see this? I've got more dignity in the very tip of this strand of hair than I think more people would ever dare say. This tiny bit here, ladies and gentlemen, this tiny bit of this hair, you see that? I've got more about me in this part of my hair than anybody could ever take away from me. So you know what? That's just it's like it's having passion, it's having dignity, it's having levels of respect, and there just doesn't seem to be like. There seems to be more people who think it's okay to show and encourage disrespect than actually give anything away. You know what? I'm going to say this right now. Back in January, ladies and gentlemen, where I said I was going to stay the entire year sober, the front of some newspaper, it was like the Daily Star or the Sun, I think, and the headline was "Shove Your Dry January," actively wanting people to drink. As though there's something funny about people, because there are people in worse situations than me when it comes to alcoholism, and they feel as if like, oh, I'll just happily drink away because, you know what, they're encouraging me, and to be honest, I'll feel better about myself for doing it. I don't feel better about myself for drinking, ladies and gentlemen. That's why I don't do it. That's why I've only had 7 pints this entire year. And I'm not going to start, because I am not an alcoholic. I just drink, on occasion, the weekends, stuff like that, because, long week of work, and may as well, I'm owed something. I feel like I'm owed something with this sort of world I feel like I've been thrown into. But I'm better than that, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm not saying that to be pretentious. I know that I am. And that's something you're going to see in the next video. Take care, and bye-bye for now.